Thank you so much for such a kind introduction. I do want to take you through the story of a co-development of a chatbot that was designed to facilitate participation in tertiary education. So why are we doing it? Well, there's an increasing number of university students with autism and related disorders, and there's some evidence that show that those that go to uni do have better life outcomes. But obviously there's significant academic and non-academic challenges. A recent study, an Australian study by Anderson, showed that those that access the support systems had a better university experience, but there is some reluctance to use those support systems, and that's partly because of previous bad experience or perhaps poor advocacy skills. So I'm sorry if you can hear the coffee machine in the background, please, I'll try and talk over it. So what we thought we could perhaps get around some of that reluctance by providing those support systems through a chatbot. And what is a chatbot? Well, it's a conversation agent that's accessed via speech or text. It's usually delivered by a smartphone or a web page, and it uses natural language processing. So it'll take in speech to text, it'll use artificial intelligence to determine what those sounds are and what they mean, and computer response. And it does this using a case-based reasoner, which has a syntactic matching algorithm and a sentiment analysis algorithm, and also a logic reasoner. And through these, it analyses the structure of the data. So what is this sound? And it recognises words from that sound and computes responses. So in this example, you can see in the screen, the user has said hello. That's recognised by the AI as a word that is a greeting. And it then searches through its brain for a response, which in this case is, hi, how are you? A logical response. In order to give a response, it's got to have something in its brain to be able to do that. So for each chatbot that we build, we need domain-specific knowledge. How did we go about co-developing this one? Well, of course, we had ethics. And then there are four main components. The first one is that content building of the brain. And we did that through focus groups and also gathering of resources that are already out there. We then have a programming component where we enter all that data, test it for any bugs, and then we would normally do a trial. And unfortunately, we couldn't do that for this project, but we were able to do a qualitative evaluation. So the focus groups we held with the Curtin Specialist Mentoring Program, which has mentees and mentors, and we provided them with a workbook that, could you shut that door? Thank you. We provided them with a workbook that had two main sections. So the first section, we looked at their positive experience of university, and that we had a checklist of things that they might like, and then free text at the bottom. And after that, the second part of that section was some strategies and tips that they had for what made these things enjoyable. In the second section of the workbook, we had what was challenging about university. And again, we had that same checklist, free text at the bottom, and then a list of things that they could put in to answer questions of what might help them with these challenges. Now, going through that, data, we actually got some surprises. So we expected that for mentees that they would find travel and social interaction quite challenging, but in fact a third of them enjoyed travel to and from the uni, and 3/4 of them enjoyed the social interaction, which is not to say that they didn't find it challenging. They weren't mutually exclusive. Not surprising was that academic aspects were challenging with classwork, assignments. 87% had exam and semester stress compared to 50% of mentors. And half of them found it challenging to look after themselves. And that was really about getting a good night's sleep and eating well. In the free text space at the bottom, they were able to put in things that they enjoyed about uni, and here we saw there was a lot of information around support, and I think this is a real credit to the Curtin Specialist Mentoring Program. It kind of contradicts Anderson's study, but I think it shows that they've found a way to deliver that support in a way that is accessible and non-confronting. So people use it and they value it. There were a number of other things there that they valued: volunteering, self-development, and my personal favourite, days when people bring their dogs. On the negative side, there were some negative experiences at university, and these came into two main themes, and one of them was that feeling left out. So even though they did value their friends, they still felt that they didn't know who to talk to or what to talk about, and that was a concurrent theme. And again, time management. And if I was to run one program through university to help people on the spectrum or related disorders, it would be a time management course on multimodal experiences, like using colour coding, using audio prompts, how to ways that work for that person's brain to help them with that time management. So through this focus group, we got the strategies and tools that they'd suggested that would help them, and a number of other documents that already exist: disability discrimination, information on counselling services, and the SOLVE method for social awareness. And we put that together with the information in the that we got from the focus groups, and that gave us a number of different modules, things like greetings, mental health, and there's a program that runs in the back of all our chatbots that picks up keywords that are linked with anxiety, depression and suicide ideation. And if anything comes up along that line, the Lifeline prompt comes up with a phone number for people to call. We've got things like how to ask for an extension with an email template, so they can just fill in their course and send it on out. Also, what is autism, common strengths, famous people that might be inspirational, some tips on managing time. The what is, it's got things like language idioms, like what does bite the bullet mean? What's the role of mentors, and the SOLVE program I already mentioned. And also the chatbot's able to have a wish list. So you can say, I wish you could do this, and then we can store that for future improvements. So then we move to the programming and testing. And this is where, sadly, the project kind of had a little stumble. So here's us with all our bits together. And unfortunately, our participants were a little sleepy at this point. So one of the ways we wanted to do the programming was to open it up to participants through the Autism Academy of Software Quality Assurance, and we ran a hackathon. We had quite a bit of interest, 16 to 20 people, only 8 turned up on the day. They weren't interested in doing the actual programming. They were more interested in playing with the information that was already in there, which was fine. We got lots of good feedback from that. But we also had a remote portal where we recruited through Aspect and Autism Hub for anybody in the wider autism community to come and do the programming. And unfortunately, we didn't get too many people through there. However, one of the people was a teacher, and they went right the way through and corrected all our grammar and literacy errors. It was fabulous. Thank you very much to that person. So then we moved to the testing phase, and here we had a little bit more participation. So we did again that opened up the remote portal. We had it open for 3 or 4 weeks for people to come in and have a look and play and advise us of any bugs. And we got a few people coming through there. We also had a testing session with the mentors at CSNP, and that was really quite well attended, and we had they played with it for about an hour to 2 hours, and again gave us some information on bugs. But the lessons that we learned from this component is that we really need a greater focus on recruitment. We just sent out flyers. We recruited through 3 different areas. I think in future we really need a targeted population. We have email addresses, we do follow-ups. We need a much better recruitment campaign. We need better instructions on the remote portal so people understand that it's not an onerous task to program. It's a really simple language. We also need to look at our participants. Students are really busy, and even though we tried our best to take into account the university calendar, there are still some challenges with assignments due, and expecting a research project on top of that is optimistic. Potentially we could recruit graduates and have them look retrospectively what would help them, or prospective students for what might help in the future. Nonetheless, we have a prototype. So we did do co-development for the content and some of the testing and programming. As I've said, we did most of the programming and testing in-house. We then ran a workshop with Autism Hub as a qualitative evaluation. And here we found that young adults that came along to that really validated what we'd found in the previous work, and that number one, it needed to provide assistance with uni, but also help with daily activities, transport, social stuff, mental health, food, all really important. They also thought it was really applicable to employment, and we're now looking at with My Way, another project with Autism CRC, to see what synergies are there. They did raise some privacy concerns that would obviously need to be addressed going forward. So in conclusion, we built a chatbot that can navigate the social, physical and environmental cues of tertiary participation. It has information on anxiety, depression and counselling services. It has relevant resources from student support services and health services. It provides communication strategies such as asking for an extension or understanding legal rights. It's available for smartphone or web use. And it was provided to Autism CRC with an AIML guide, which means that new modules can be added at any time in the future, plus modifications if phone numbers change or if new material is provided. So this is a really busy slide, but I'd really like to thank Tracy Reagan, our community advisor, and of course, all our participants and Autism CRC. Thank you for listening.